say that I went for my captain's interview, and after my captain's interview was on the EMS side, you have to go sit down with EEO personnel and fire department chief and deputy chief. I went to my captain's interview. After, I went to the 4th floor. I had an envelope. It said, Mrs. Margaret Ferrandino. We knocked on the door of EEO. The secretary with a big smile came in. I said, could you give this envelope to her? Is she in today? They said, she is in today. I said, that's good. They said, who's this letter from? I said, the answer's inside. Inside was me cordially inviting her to a Merit Matters meeting with the Merit Matters flyer and the speech I'm about to read. If you ever posted anything on YouTube, this is a good time to turn on your cameras now. You feel free to post this on YouTube. Because Ferrandino does have a copy, and what I'm willing to say, I want to be public record. First of all, I'd like to thank Paul Maddox for giving me this time to speak to your members. I know that I was invited to speak about my cases against EEO, but I'm more compelled about to speak what needs to be a movement of awareness that we as Americans are not just accepting the nonsense that's thrown at us by certain people who feel empowered to do so. President Maddox, not that your members need any more inspiration or cause on these issues that you're concerned about. Since what happened to me, well, I guess it's time that I speak. I speak for others to listen and know that this road that you partake in, sir, is not an easy ride. And for those who decide to share this path with your members and decide to take on another case, cause, or route, is not an easy ride. First, let me address something that may be unpopular with the members here, and I ask them for maturity as I do it. I want to congratulate the Vulcan Society in their victory against the FDNY and the City of New York. I do mean that with sincerity. And there's a lesson for all of the Merit Matters members to take from it too. As Malcolm X would say, by all means necessary. I would like to add to that, by all legal means necessary. And the Vulcan Society found the legal means. And they found an organization that has a waiting list of clients. And they won their fight. It took 7 years. And the organization that took their fight even got paid for their legal fight. As for my legal fight, it's not over. My union and I elected to go another round. I think it's time for us all in here to have a little history lesson. One perhaps the Vulcan Society used as their lesson for their fights that they take on. It was December 1st, 1955. A 42-year-old female was later recalled when she was speaking about her incident that her refusal wasn't because she was physically tired, but she was tired of giving in. She was, according to Montgomery City Law Code, a lawbreaker and was arrested. Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to stand up because a bus driver told her to stand up and give her seat to a white man, even though she was sitting in a designated spot for colored passengers. Rosa Parks, a seamstress by profession, never knew that her stand would lead to the discovery of Dr. Martin Luther King's ability to be a leader in the civil rights movement. Nor did she realize at the time that the power of the black dollar would cripple the city of Montgomery's transit finances as they led a boycott that would lead to the end of segregation, as the Supreme Court had to step in and rule that segregation was unconstitutional. I'm sure if Ms. Parks was alive, she'd tell you that the day that she was arrested, that she would have never known that her stand would have an effect throughout modern history. That her stand didn't happen overnight. It took over 380 days that her stand would leave her mark. Through her fight and the fight of Mr. Parks, their family lost their jobs and had to move out of the town that they lived in and started a new life, a price for making their mark. In my life, I do have two heroes that I look up to. One, some of you may all know, is Daniel Sir, who in engine 216 died in the back of my ambulance during 9/11. And the other, Frederick Douglass, a man who, against all odds, did what he wanted to do and dared those who opposed to stop him in his mission. At 12 years old, Frederick Douglass made it a point to learn to read. His master saw the wild streak within and sent him to a slave breaker who whipped Douglass regularly. And as history told, Douglass at 16 years old fought this boss/master at a time of physical altercation where Douglass won and the master never hit him again. When all odds were against him throughout his life, he traveled to England and Ireland, became a public speaker, was invited to functions to speak at, and eventually gained his freedom. But his journey was not an easy one. He did what he wanted to do, no matter what the opinion was. And one example was in his second marriage. His wife, who was white, was biracial, and biracial marriages were definitely frowned upon, especially at that time. I guess you could say that he paved the way for me and for others, because I am married twice out of my race and have a biracial son. What's even more forgotten about him, that he was the first African American to be nominated Vice President of the U.S. Clearly, Frederick Douglass took a stand and made his mark also. Alexander Hamilton was noted for saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that saying may have been forgotten until Malcolm X said it in a few of his own speeches. Our forefathers took a stand in 1776 for what they believed in, and knew that their actions would delineate and define them, as should your actions define you in life. Our forefathers knew the cost of losing was treason, and felt that they should all hang together, or assuredly they would hang separately. I am not, by comparison, any of these people that I have mentioned. But everyone here today, and those who pass the word on to, should remember that if you believe in your point of issue, if you don't just cry about it, and allow yourself to be a whipping boy, and sitting on the sidelines is not going to cut it either. It will not be easy, and time itself is something you're not going to get back. And Paul can sure tell you that. But the stand you take on today, and it may lead to the victories that you take on in years to come. If you're not going to stand with me or this organization, then at least stand against what you feel are the injustices that are upon your doorstep. Because what happened to me today, when tomorrow comes, you could very well inherit my same issue. Thank you. And the one thing I will say is my court documents are on the internet for everyone to read. It's unfortunate that I couldn't hang on to Angelo who fought such a strong fight, but I am going another round. I did file an appeal. But for a guy who's on the losing end of the spectrum, I still keep my head up. I still have the support of my station. And though in my file I am a racist, because EEO said so, and Paul Madison, feel freely to go into that, I continue my fight and continue to have my head up. And I stand here today letting you know and that it happens greatly more on the other side than it does on this side. But it's interesting to know that this side is now starting to inherit my issues and some of the people that know how to work the system. So be prepared, my friends, and understand that if you don't take a stand, you could be just like me. And if you do nothing, you'll be labeled just like me. And you can cry about nothing thereafter.
Thanks, Rick. What I forgot to mention when I was introducing him, that this is scary. This is scary stuff. He was told by EEO, they found him guilty of saying what a person who he was involved in a civil lawsuit with made a complaint, a civilian, made a complaint saying he said something off duty in his private car, off duty, with this person who he's in a legal tangle with. This is the guy who made the complaint against him. So he asked the EEO attorney, well, how did you determine that I said this, that I'm guilty?